Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ntshongwana show. So good to be here today because I'm chatting to someone I admire, someone I've been friends with for a really long time. She's a businesswoman, an anchor, a law graduate, and an all-round amazing person, a mom as well. Flo Letoaba, who's a news anchor at the SABC currently. Hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's good to be here, and I should stop calling you my friend. I'll try to be a little bit more professional.
No, call me your friend because we're friends now. But let me tell everyone the actual story here. Flo stole a man from me.
Wow, please no. Okay, it's already a lie. It's already a lie.
Flo stole a man who was texting me. But did we even have
we had like SMS, I think, whatever.
Do you want to tell the story, or I'm going to let you tell the story?
Because I think I tell the story better. So this guy he was actually a thing. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He actually was.
We were 19-esque at the SABC, both newsreaders, Metro 5 FM.
Yes. We both thought he was great, and he really was. Actually, I hope he doesn't watch this. But anyway.
And then what happened?
But we were prepared to share him. Last I checked, we were...
Flo, I just realized somehow, somewhere that you were dating this guy, and I was like, but what had happened was...
I thought we'd agreed to share. So I was in a polygamy situation without knowing I'm in a polygamy situation.
So here's what I think happened. I think you didn't know. And by the time I found out, it was like too late. You know when like your friend who's like savvier, smarter, quicker, Flo was that person. You know, I just woke up one day and I was like... What happened?
But I thought, because at some point, let's be honest, at some point we were both going on like, I don't know if they were even dates. Did he know what was going on? And we were all going out for dinners and clubbing, and we were having a great time.
That's where the problem actually started, was that we as friends were all like hanging out, and then he obviously didn't know who to choose, but he chose you.
Okay, I'm not aware of that. I really thought we were... I didn't know there's this underlying beef between us. I really thought we were sharing.
Do you know that I watch the news with my mom all the time, and I'm just like, my mom loves you, and I'm just like, I just wish I could tell you that this woman stole my man. My man though.
Well, karma, because he's now gone and he's still as perfect as ever and married to somebody else.
Someone else.
So it was neither of us, my friend.
Oh,
it's okay.
What a chuckle. I'm so glad we've moved on from that.
Let's take that. I'm glad we addressed this first because I feel like
Red table talk. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm very well, my friend. I'm working, and that's all we're grateful for when this time of pandemic and all that nonsense.
So much has happened since I've seen you, since we've just like connected in our lives. But I'm glad that we found each other again, because we were, like I mentioned, at the SABC at the same time. And Flo and I was so naive, man. You know, when you arrive, big building, SABC, we were just like these like little girls straight out of school.
Starstruck. I think to a certain degree, I actually was.
Really?
And I didn't actually want the job.
Sure.
So the programs manager at the time, like I think he found a way to trick me because he knew I'm young and impressionable. So I was just like, no, I actually don't want to. This is not what I want to do in my life. I want to go be a lawyer. And he was okay, cool. I think it was like a Friday afternoon. And he was like...
Who was it?
It was Leo. And he said, it was like a Friday afternoon. And he was like, why don't you just come and just see the studio, Knowing very well there's going to be your Glenn Lewis there, your Penny Lebiadne's there, And so I walk into the studio. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And of course, after that, I was just like, okay, maybe I'll try it out a little bit. And I've been trying it out ever since.
That is amazing. That's such a cool story, because you fell into it, but you were at UJ as well.
Yeah.
What was happening at UJ, and how did you...
I'm old, so it was Rao, I guess. When
yes,
we were
at the time. Yeah. Yes. What were you doing there?
So I was doing my third year of my LLB and pretty much like wrapping up or whatever, and just planning my life now. And I think I've always been, and that's why this industry freaks me out so much. I don't know how I found myself in this industry, because I'm such a creature of habit. So I like system. I like things must go a certain way. So I plan my life. Okay, I'm going to do my articles, and then I'm going to work for this big law firm in Sandton, and this is how I'll be a partner maybe one day. All of that. So that was all my plan. And so this whole industry kind of, I don't know, I think it stole me and just it took me by surprise really as well, that I became successful in it when I didn't actually plan to.
You did a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of, like being at SAFM.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And I didn't know what you were doing there. What was that experience like?
So it was actually really nice. So
Yeah.
I was the youngest to host a breakfast show on SAFM.
That's huge.
But I also it also kind of scared me a little bit because I was then introduced to talk radio.
Okay.
And talk radio is a whole different monster, as you know. So that was a beginning of me really getting into talk and understanding how to, deal with, guests and deal with politicians and all of that.
Sure.
So I credit, that time at SFM and doing that breakfast show.
Okay.
With, the ability to, speak to politicians and all the stuff that I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did you get into that? How did you get sucked into that as well?
So again, like every time I try to leave this industry, every time I try to leave the media industry, something happens. So just as I was about to go do my articles, I get a call from SABC News and they say, we understand that, you're leaving. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, no. Come try out TV and try out, talk radio and see if it works for you. And I'm just like, nah, I've made my decision about where I'm going. And so I'd already even said, I'll come start my article. So everything was planned out for me. And I don't tell the story often, but what actually made me stay was I saw the paycheck.
That girl.
So now I'm like, doing articles
Versus
as a candidate attorney, I'll be earning like really bad.
How much was it at the time?
Oh God, I don't know.
Minimal.
It was so little. So,
yeah.
But everybody knows, like candidate
attorneys
earn very little. But
my
dad's justification at the time was, you'll earn little now, but then it goes higher and higher. Whereas you don't know with the media industry, it can go high and then go lower and lower. So that's something I've had to kind of think about. And sometimes I'm like, maybe a person must just go back to law. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, it was really the money at the time, and I was like, there's no way anyone my age would be making this, especially in the field of law.
That's amazing. So did you ever do your articles?
No, so I didn't end up doing them, which I think it's something I regret.
Really?
But I've also realized that should I want to go back, I don't necessarily have to do articles. I can do pupillage, which is, and then you become an advocate. And that's easier because you're literally being run by one person. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a case where you're thrown into this corporate law office where everyone can boss you around. And there's a lot of hierarchy in law firms. Mm-hmm. So if I were to walk into a law firm now, I would not cope because I would literally be at the bottom of the bottom, and that I might struggle with that a little bit.
So what did hosting a breakfast show on talk radio at 22 do for you? What do you think it taught you? And also, were you aware of the fact that you were this young person? Is that something that stood out for you, or were you just getting on with the job?
I think I took it for granted. I didn't. You know what? I'm a person who doesn't see what's happening in the moment, but I will like reflect back on it and be like, man, I did something there. That was something quite big or good that I did there.
Massive.
Yeah. So I think at the time I wasn't aware of, this is a big deal. But as I'm older, I'm like, geez, that was quite cool. Yeah.
It was a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, no, it really, really was. Yeah.
So let's talk about all the other stuff that you've done, because we've spoken about the news and are hosting a talk radio show. You also run a communications company and a reputation management company. Yeah. And I'm always sending Flo people's names that need help because I don't know. Some of the people I know just always need help. What is your business about?
So we actually stumbled upon that. So our very good friend Tebogo, mutual friend, we was just sitting, one day and just thinking like, we always have these ideas about how people should be, presenting themselves and, how they should be speaking when they're interviewed like this. Mm-hmm. And we always would see problems. And we're like, what if we did like a media? And at that time, there was actually a company that used to hire me out to do some of their media training anyway. And I thought, I could do this on my own. I don't need them to hire me. So we started out as just media training. So we would have, it was really quite nice. We'd have like like corporates, CEOs who are maybe going to be interviewed on a radio station or whatever, just, checking if, am I making sense? Is this how I speak? Is this how I present myself? Because, how you present yourself at work is very different to how you would be presenting yourself on a radio show or a TV show. So it started like that. And then, people who wanted to get into media would then come to us and get training. Then we stumbled upon reputation management. We realized that some of these people, it's not media training you're actually looking for. You're actually looking for reputation management here. So we then started, okay, maybe this is something else that we're actually doing. And then on the side, we were also doing a few productions. So it kind of just came together and was like, all right, you know what, we'll just do all of this in-house. Whatever happens, happens. So when we're deep in production, then we do deep in production. And then when we're doing media, it always has seasons. It's really funny. We'll be so deep into media training at one point, then it'll get a lot of clients in reputation management.
Sure.
And then suddenly we'll also have people wanting us to do productions for them. So we do like corporate productions, little things like that, videos like that. So it's really quite holistic and it's nice.
And where does your legal studies fit into all of this? How do you make it all make sense?
You know what, hey, I always say I'm never going to be a person who does one thing.
Sure.
So, of course, it comes in the business aspect. Like recently, there was a show I created and I was very worried about people stealing my idea. So,
as you should be in this country.
Yeah, so, I think that my legal knowledge kicked in and I obviously then started to protect myself and started to protect the company as well. Also, I'm very lucky to have a very good friend of mine who happens to be an entertainment lawyer anyway.
Nice.
So I think that it's been helpful to me, even in my news anchoring.
Sure.
A lot of the issues that we deal with, political issues are always somehow legal. And I think because I understand that so much, I'm able to give a good interview when I'm speaking to whether it's a politician or a legal person.
So let's talk about you as a woman in the industry, as someone who's obviously got some kind of opinion, even though you are a news anchor, on the state of affairs in South Africa and women in general. I always want to ask other women this question because I always think that my mind is just like one track minded. But what do you think are some of the positives in terms of what's happening with women in the industry and how far we've come? And what do you think still needs work? Also, because you've been in this industry for about 20 years now. Actually, that is so embarrassing.
It's so hard to look at that.
It's embarrassing and it's actually exciting. But you've been through the motions. You've also been in situations where other women have tried to sort of, quieten your voice.
Yes.
So what has that been like, just maneuvering through all of that?
So this industry, and I won't lie, it is tough on women.
Sure.
But I'm so grateful, and I've noticed now that a lot of the girls that are in the industry now, and I don't want to call them girls because they're young ladies, women, whatever, I think they've got more of a voice and they're more willing and able to speak. And I don't know if it was your experience, but in my time, I mean, there's a lot of Me Too guys. There's a lot of guys who should really actually be on that database, really.
Sure.
That we knew, or we thought in our time maybe, that if you ever said anything or you spoke about a situation or someone making you feel uncomfortable, that, you know what, this is a big person in the industry. I could lose my job. I could lose, we were almost, I think I was quite scared. And so I never did speak about anyone that was making me feel weird or uncomfortable. But I see now, and it really inspires me. And it's great that I'm being inspired by younger people. The young girls, the young ladies now, they will expose you and they will speak and they're not scared. And that for me is a step forward. And I'm very happy to be able to see that and to watch things change in my industry, an industry that's synonymous with really actually bad behavior towards women.
And also just silencing the voice of women. I think it's exciting as well, is that they've been so many quality women coming through the ranks, and not necessarily, because I always find that we almost have to prove ourselves beyond the men. Like a guy can just be bare minimum, get on with life, and we almost have to be, above and beyond that. And I'm so excited, like you're saying, there are a lot younger women that are achieving so much more, that are doing so much more than the guys, and they've got more to offer. I always say that, like, as a woman, that's always, your trump card is that, yes, you've got the talent, you've got your fundamentals down, but then it's also a positive that you're a woman because your POV.
But what's
is gonna
funny
be
about
different.
this situation is that the men feel victimized. Like they really,
How?
yeah. Like I'll hear comments like, "Oh, yeah, you know, so that person only got it because she's a woman, and they're trying to look like they're fair to women." And I'm like, actually, that person is kicking your butt. I don't know who
Above
told
and
you.
beyond.
I don't know. Like, you know, I'd often hear a certain presenter. Did a couple of years of law but didn't finish their law degree. I'd be like, well, I actually finished mine.
Yes.
So why are you telling me?
Exactly.
You know, this is not a big deal
Doesn't
to me.
matter.
You know, so things like that. So we've always had to prove ourselves more, and it's exhausting. But yes, it is what it is.
Let's talk about your time at Prime Media.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that. Oh my gosh. Don't worry, I was there for 3 hot seconds too, baby girl. And I left because I saw someone else resigning, and then I was like, actually, what am I still doing?
Look, I'll say this. I'll be fair. Okay, wait, what was your question first of all?
I love that. I'll be fair. My question was going to be what you enjoyed about being there,
Yeah.
but also maybe you have regrets and reservations.
Yeah.
One, about how you handled it, which I highly doubt, but two, what it's taught you.
Yeah.
And what I always say, this is, you know, the era that we're in, what I wouldn't do to another woman because of that situation. So
Okay.
how has it served you in that way? Like, how have you grown?
Yeah.
And
okay. That's
what
a
was the
difficult
Prime
one.
Media situation? I actually don't know what the situation
So
was, to be quite
I
honest.
think I just didn't enjoy it, and I think
Okay.
that, and when I said to you, let me be fair, I think that we are all different, and I think that a place that might be great to you might not be great to me. A lot of people in the industry who've never been to SABC or have been to SABC for a few years or didn't like it, always say to me, how do you cope, you know, at SABC? But I think I'm just an SABC monster. That's just what I am. And I'm used to the culture. I'm used to how things are done. I'm used to the environment and even the people. I enjoy the people at SABC more than anything. So I think I'm at home. It feels like being at home. And what I do regret is maybe having left SABC in the first place, just because I wanted to see what was out there, and I was interested to see, and maybe that's, if when you're asking about the good, is that I got to see what's out there, and I didn't like it. So that's that.
Yeah.
But that's for me as a person. I'm not saying that everybody else is going to hate the same environment that I hated. I just did. It just didn't work for my personality as Flo. It just wasn't something that I liked. I also just felt like I wasn't being given the platforms that I deserved. You know, I just felt like you can't put a person who is used to doing prime or breakfast or whatever it is, and then trying to make them prove themselves. I felt like I don't have anything to prove here. You know, if SABC, which is a national broadcaster, is not making me prove myself every second, who are you to make me prove myself all the time? So I think that was also the thing. I just felt like, I'm tired of proving myself now. But there's a lot that I learned. There's a lot of what I've handled that, no, I wouldn't have handled differently, not at all. I think, you know, we all plan to leave quietly, but I think once you provoke me, that part of me, now I'll make a noise. You know? I always plan to leave quietly. I always do.
Yeah.
But the moment you start to make a campaign to ruin my name, I'll be like, okay, now you want me to talk.
That's where the buck stops.
Yeah, that's where we ended. So
Let's talk about, I'm glad you positioned it like that, because that makes a lot of sense in the context of everything. Let's talk about who you are as a young lady, because I know you're from Soweto, right?
Yes, Soweto. I like how you say it.
Because you call yourself the Duchess of Deep Coupe. So
Yes.
what is it about Soweto that you think made you the person that you are today?
I love the fact that I'm actually from Soweto.
Yeah.
I love it.
What is so great
and
about
excuse me, Deep Coupe is a posh part of Soweto. Let me just, can I just qualify my statement?
Okay.
So I'm from an area called Diepkloof Extension, which is like, so there's Diepkloof, and then the people who thought they were great then went and built bigger houses in what's called Diepkloof Extension. So that's the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So that's really where I grew up. My granny, a hustler I'm so much like her, a nurse who also did business on the side. So every time I think about that, my character and the way I like to work hard, it just goes back to my granny. You know, she never believed in doing one thing, so she would be doing a lot of things at once, and she just did so well. And I think having her as someone that I could look up to and admire has been really great for me, to watch a woman who, and also in her time when, you know, it was such a taboo to be a divorcee in those days, you know, but she would carry it with such pride. I remember my granny, like in her younger days, like, I'm a divorcee, you know, like it's almost like something to be proud of. But and I think that was that earlier on taught me that as a woman there's certain things that put to you, that it must be something that must shame you or whatever, and actually no, they should be empowering to you. I mean, you brought up your 3 beautiful kids well. I mean, during the midst of apartheid, my granny's able to take her kids to tennis lessons, to what did my uncle and my aunt do, ballroom. You know, these are things that people that grew up in apartheid didn't necessarily experience, and the fact that she was able to give that life to her kids, and then, you know, later it came to us too, I think really was, I loved living there. It's just and I love that I'm from there. I would even buy more property if I could there. I love it.
That's so cool. So talk to me about your school years.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know you in high school.
We wouldn't have gotten along in high school. No, I wouldn't have liked you. No, I think.
Just like me. This is so funny.
Were you a sporty girl?
Yes, yeah.
I found a lot of the sporty girls were very sort of bullies. And what were you, a netball girl?
I was an everything girl, but I was particularly good at netball. And
you see, I even knew that. I didn't even know, but I could pick it up.
That you can pick that up. Yes. Yeah, but
we wouldn't have gotten along. I never got along with the netball girl. So I did, I played.
Because you were a hockey girl.
Yes, I was a hockey girl.
Yeah.
But also that wasn't the main thing that I did. So for school, I was more the arts. So I was doing drama, I was doing a lot of public speaking. So I think I knew by then that I wanted to get into, there's a time I entertained acting, but I knew at that time I wanted to get into law. I wanted to get into something that, you know, needs a lot of, you know, speaking and I think law also needs performance, actually, especially if you're one of those you know, trial attorneys. So yeah, I don't think we would have gotten along. I was a little bit of an overachiever, I think, to a certain degree.
So I don't get along with overachievers.
See, so we wouldn't have gotten along. So I was one of those who liked to collect the badges and the scrolls.
Yes, friend, you must.
I was just,
your blazer must be decorated. I'm a believer.
I think I've always had that thing. And
did you party at all? When did you actually party?
When I actually partied was when I met you.
Oh my gosh. What do you even mean?
I mean, because when I think, okay, let me not lie and put you right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Varsity was when I really, I wouldn't say I was a nerd, but I was something lighter than nerd.
Sure.
In school.
Open to what's out there, but not completely.
No, I just...
Because you were still quite reserved.
I mean, I was a deputy head girl, for goodness sake. So you can already see the kind of girl that I was in school. So, I mean, I think in varsity then, you know, we were in this big group and... You know, they were drinking every Thursday, Friday, and, you know...
Yeah, we would not have gotten That was like standard at Tux FM. That's all we did.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually left that group because I thought, oh my God, I'm actually going to fail here because every other day it was like walks to... what was the thing back then? Cool Runnings or something.
Yes, friend.
And then
Cool Runnings was so much fun.
It was just always partying, alcohol, all of that. So that's when I discovered. And then when I started working for Metro, now you would relate. So now we're invited to all the parties, okay? We're getting in free VIP at all these places. And now my standards have gone up. So now I can't hang out with my varsity friends at Cool Runnings, excuse me.
Because what is Cool Runnings really?
What now? So now I'm finding new places to hang out. Now I'm hanging out. I don't know if you know, there was this place and I'll never forget it. It was called Divine Lounge. It was in Rosebank.
Yes,
Rosebank.
of course.
And that was the spot back then, for like classy young ladies. So that's where we hung out a lot. And then there were a lot of like classy places that we discovered. And because now we just felt like we were a bit, I was just too up there now. That's what I thought in my mind.
Hilarious.
So yeah, I think that's when I discovered partying and all of that. But now I've calmed down again.
That is amazing. What's probably also calmed you down is also the fact that you're a mother.
Oh yeah.
That helps too. Talk to us about motherhood and that journey for you and what it's taught you and what you've loved.
So that's obviously my best role. I think that my son really just, I was never a wild person, but I think that my son really just brought me towards myself.
Sure.
I think also, he also came in my life at a time where I was going through a very dark period. I actually called him Khanya, which is light. And he literally was, really a light, and he still is a light in my life.
What was the dark period?
Just stuff, life. Life happens, And it was just, I think that was just the perfect thing to have happened. And, now, look, I've always been a person that wants to work hard and has things to work for and is ambitious, but now that I have a child, it's like there's more to work towards, so at any time when I'm feeling like that urge to give up, I'm like, hey, you know what, there's someone who actually relies on you not to give up. So yeah, my son is just so important in my life, honestly.
You're giving him golf lessons at the moment. Why is that important? I've just started. We're probably at the same level of golf, me and your son, actually, because I've just started playing golf. Why golf?
His father is a former rugby player.
Okay.
And I was trying to get him away from rugby, and I thought, what is the one sport that is the total opposite of rugby? And I'm so worried that he'll eventually say to me, Mom, please, you and your golf must just leave me.
Sure.
He's actually really good, but it's like many sportsmen. So he's got a sporting gene, obviously, from his father. But he has many sports that he's good at. So as much as I would love for him to get into golf, because that's a sport I think is such a gentleman's game, and I think that guys that play sport have a certain demeanor. That play golf, and I'd like him to have that demeanor. But I don't know if he's that guy. I mean, he's kind of a guy's guy. He's rough. He wants to kick and this and all of that. So I'm waiting for the day he says to me, listen, I know I'm good at golf, but actually I want to play rugby, which I don't want, but if it happens, it happens.
What can you do? Are you going to have more kids? Is that
why don't you start by having one, and then I'll follow you, and then I have a second.
I keep saying, do you know what it is with the kids thing? To have to meet someone, establish a level of trust, get to
such a process.
A point where I'm like, okay, cool, you're going to be the father of my kids. Then let's have the baby. Then let's pop the baby. Then let's, oh my.
Yeah, it's such a mission. But I also think, I don't want to say don't overthink it, because a child is a big thing.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think you ever get to a stage that you're actually ready. When Kanya came, I was just like, hey, wait, am I even ready? It's like, well, you're going to have to be ready.
Sure.
So I think it just happens. So even with, kids are so expensive, I might have a second one.
Sure.
I'm waiting till I'm closer to 40, then I'll be really under pressure.
Sure.
And if I don't do it by 40, then I'm not going to do it.
What have some of the pressures been for you as a young woman in the industry, as a young woman who's, like you're saying now, mentioning 40 as an age that we used to all look at and be like, oh my gosh.
Do you remember? We used to think people who were 40 were so old. Now we're going there. Like, my goodness. So the challenge, I don't know if it's a challenge, but it's like, when you're reaching a certain age in the industry, it gets tougher and tougher. So, I'm trying to word this properly. There's always newer, younger girls who are more talented than you in the pipelines. And it's just, and the sad thing about this industry is that it's always waiting to not flush you out. That's such a terrible way to put it, but they're always waiting for the next new thing. So unlike law, for instance, where, you know, your experience and your gravitas holds so much. There's no young person who's going to come and replace you now because they don't have that level of experience or whatever that you bring. Whereas in the media industry, there's always a need and a want to change you, to change people. I mean, somebody said when I just gone back to SABC News, someone said, shouldn't, you know, why is it always her? Why, you know, aren't there other younger newsreaders or whatever? And I was like, this is what I've been doing for so long.
Sure.
This is the experience. This is what I bring. You know what I mean? This is what I've been doing. Would you say to a doctor, shouldn't we be bringing in new, younger doctors in this hospital? Would you be saying that? So it's just... So that's one of the things that is quite challenging. And when you know, when older ladies, when we started, seemed a little bit not so nice to us. Maybe some were a little bit bitter, and I wouldn't have understood it. And now I'm like, wow, I get it. It's like you watching these people that you know at the end the system is to take you out. So and I think that's also why I've made sure that I've got a lot of other things going on. Because I don't ever want to get to that point where I'm bitter or get to that point where I feel like, oh my gosh, these people are just here to replace me. I want to enjoy them. You know, there's so many young guys at SABC now that I enjoy so much because I don't have that attitude anymore of, they're just here to replace me.
I definitely have a bit of that attitude, but I also have a very I don't care attitude, and I think it's also because of my experience at 5. But I'm also I'm just conscious of how like life works, so I'm not nervous about moving on to the next stage of my life.
But do you ever, I mean, I don't, now I'm asking you questions, but do you ever like sit back and go like, and I try very hard not to be this person where, you know, maybe you listen, let's say to 5, and you're like, but I'm better, but what's going on? And you try not to be, you know, nasty about it, but do you ever
yes that? And no, but I also think that things have changed and evolved so much that 5 years ago, definitely, I would have been like, cool, can give that person a run for their money, blah, blah, blah. But I also think that there's a dilution that's taken place, if that's the right word.
Okay.
So I think that there's nothing wrong with younger people coming through the system if they're talented and they're good. That's why I'm always happy to be like, that person's so good and so fun to listen to, because I get it. And I also know what it's like to be that young and to be achieving and to be, you know, when you're not, like you were saying earlier on, that you weren't aware of the things that you were achieving. When you're just running on talent, it's a different kind of energy than running on like your ego or thinking, do you know what I mean? It's just like, guys, I'm here. I don't know how I got here, but
and I think that made me slightly arrogant. And I try very hard not to, because I felt like I'm talented. So, I mean, I don't know what you're working with, but I'm working with something that I actually have. So it made me a little bit nasty. But now I realize that sometimes it's not just talent that brings you into the industry. So it could be whatever else that brought you into the industry. And I'm trying, and I had to work very hard to understand that not everybody has to have the same level or same talent or the same. So it's a constant work where I have to understand, like, even the person that I think is terrible, but there's something that they're bringing. And it's not about me. It's not, you know, what my thoughts about their level of talent. It's got nothing to do with me. And I had to really humble myself and learn that.
Oh, that's such a great lesson that I still have to have to learn. Oh man, that is too funny.
We have to keep learning in this industry. Otherwise, well, you know, you have to humble yourself because the industry can humble you. So yeah.
Don't we know it and believe it? Don't worry. I know. I'm always like, I'm being humbled. And I don't understand why do you know what it feels like? It feels like God's only humbling me.
And you're like a good person, but unfortunately this industry will humble anybody, you know?
And I don't think the industry cares for good people.
No.
And I think that was my mistake, was that I thought just being a good person and being talented would get me through. Now I'm like, I need to be ruthless.
So I had a point where I was that way, but it's so consuming. Being a ruthless, like,
but friends, we know that there are people. No, friend, there's people who carry this and carry it with ease because that's always who they've been.
But that's who they are.
Us, it's a burden.
So imagine now we're trainee witches. You're never going to be as good a witch as an original witch, you know?
This is so true.
it's I let go of it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to enjoy myself, because I also think that level of ugliness just grows in you, and it just makes you awful.
Sure.
So I just work, enjoy what I do, and also just always in the back of my mind, Flo, you've got other things, you know. So even when I'm having a bad day at work, and someone didn't write a story properly, and this one is not doing the right camera angle, or whatever the situation, I'm just like, but this is literally 3 hours of your life,
and then what?
And you've got other things going on.
Let's talk about some of the women in the industry who I think you've been around and you obviously might respect.
Yeah.
Who are those women for you?
Yeah.
And what have they...
Are we limiting it to South Africa?
No, I know you watch a lot of CNN.
Yes. So I think for me, because I really do watch a lot of international news and so forth. So obviously the people I would admire are,
the world, yeah.
Yeah. So but I'll try and bring it to South Africa. So, we were just talking about, sometimes in the industry you meet women that they're weird towards you,
sure.
or whatever. But, I was very lucky that I encountered that very few. I can count on my finger how few those kinds of women I counted were. I was very lucky to, when I got to Metro, I mentioned her earlier, Penny, I met you, Azania. I think you had on the show, Melanie was also there. So, Criselda Kananda was also there. So I was surrounded by a beautiful group of dynamic, lovely women. And I think those are the people that I can say now I admire. But for me also, I might admit the people that I admire.
You can silence it.
So the people I admire are not only in this field, in media industry, and that's important to me because it means this is not where I'm limited. So I also have a lot of people that I admire in the legal world. Our public protector advocate, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, is someone that I actually admire. She's extremely educated, a smart, wonderful black woman. There's so many women that I can look up to in the legal world and in other fields as well. So I don't limit it to just where I am in this media industry.
How do you deal with controversy and just because you're so vocal?
Yeah.
And I'm reminded because you mentioned Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. How do you handle the controversy of being an anchor, having an opinion, and also then having that opinion tested constantly, daily? What do you do and where do you stand with that as a person?
I'm very
journalist?
firm. If I feel a certain way about something, I don't even try to hide it. This is what I believe, and this is my belief system. But I'm also able to be challenged. So I don't mind someone to bring information to me that maybe I might not have been aware of when I came to a certain conclusion. So I'm not somebody who's just stuck in my ways and I'm not willing to hear anything else. But I am someone who's not afraid to, whether my view is controversial on a certain topic or whether I like someone who might not be liked by other people, I don't care. I'm going to be firm in where I am and where I stand and why I stand the way that I do.
So finally, to wrap this conversation up, I want to talk about your dad because we both have lost our fathers.
Yeah. I was hoping we weren't going to do that because then what if we cry and then you're going to do what?
Then it's the end of the show and we can just be tears until the end. But I think it's a very important conversation to have, just with other women who've had fathers in their lives, but even just as someone who, obviously your dad's passing, and not to compare war stories, was a lot more tragic in a sense because you weren't in the country and you weren't there for that. But how are you feeling now, and what does your dad's presence in your life do for you?
Sure. Okay. Let me try not to be too emotional about it.
Sure.
So I think it was very traumatic in that. I always say very few things humble me, but that definitely humbled me. I look back on it and I go, that was, I've never been someone who can say I'm feeling weak, but there I was like, nope, I'm broken, I'm done.
Sure.
So it happened all of a sudden, and honestly, it just, and I wasn't, as you say, I wasn't even in the country. But looking back now, maybe it's good that I wasn't, because in that long trip back from India to South Africa, I got to take it in, and I was crying the whole. I mean, it's a long plane ride. But I got to take it in, and I was able to be strong when I arrived, because whenever there's a passing of someone big in the family, there's always tensions and this and weird things going on, and I had to be strong, for my mom, for my siblings, and all of that. So and being the firstborn, that's a role that I had to have. So in that time that I was making that commute back to South Africa, I was able to be weak in that time and know that on arrival I have to toughen up. And when you're talking about the role, you can always tell a daddy's girl, and I think maybe we also, you and I managed to, I don't know if you know Masaka Kana, she's with,
I know who she is, but I don't know her personally.
So she was also a daddy's girl, also lost her father around the same time we did. And I always connect with daddy's girls. There's just something about a daddy's girl. We have a certain almost like, I don't need this nonsense, please, my daddy treated me well. Even when it comes to men, we have that thing like, I don't treat me like nonsense. I've got a dad who treated me well, thank you very much. So I know, with my dad, he always had this thing that we had to live well, because he didn't. He grew up quite hard, and he had to work very hard to get to where he was. So he always, and that's why I think to a certain degree I'm a very spoiled person. So I always feel like life was just, he made sure that my life was good, and he made sure that I got the best of things. I went to good schools. He was always there, and a present dad. I mean, you can't underestimate the importance of a present dad for a girl, well, even for boys, of course.
Sure.
But it just gives you, it empowers you so much as a woman, and I don't think I would be the strong, tough woman that I am today had it not been for the presence of my father, and such an active role that he played. I mean, he would constantly be telling me, like, you are the best. Like, I'm so vain, I think, because of him, because he would always constantly tell me, no, you are the best, you're the smartest, you're this. And having those kinds of reinforcements is so important. So I don't need validation from anyone,
right?
Because I got that validation from my father. So I don't need someone to tell me you're good. I know I am. I don't need to be told these things.
It's so weird how we have so many similarities when it comes to like fathers. And I have a friend of mine, Pilani, who also lost her father at the same time. And just like, I don't know where they got it from, but their energies and how they reaffirmed their girl child in particular.
That's it.
And maybe it's also because they were raised by strong women. Because my dad was as well. And it just is so powerful. Like, I often think of just like the stuff my dad used to say to me randomly. And I'm like, why? At the funeral, my siblings were all like, no, you were dad's favorite. And I was like, how did we arrive? We've never had this conversation. We don't know who dad's favorite is. You guys are putting me on the spotlight. But just that connection with our fathers, I agree. It definitely did a lot of solidifying in terms of that male-female relationship, and just being present for my mom as well. So just having that connection reinforced every time you go home. It's also very, very powerful.
And I always try to be that parent that, what I had and what I needed, what I got, that's the parent I want to be. So, for example, my dad, if anyone was bullying me, my dad was at that school. Following day, back then it wasn't emails.
You get bullied?
Excuse me, I would. Okay, like once or twice, but it's happened. But in those days, it wasn't like an email. So you'd either do like my dad would write handwritten notes and like arrive at the school. So I'm that mom now. And I realized I've now become that person. So whenever my son says, I'm like, must I arrive? Always ready for action. And he'll be like, mom, okay, it's not yet at that level. So I think just be the parent that you want to, the parent that you had, and what you needed from a parent. I'm a lot harder just because I'm raising a son.
Sure.
So I've had to learn to be, I'm a tough person by nature, but I've had to be like, I don't want you to be, in Nyaope boy or whatever. I need to be tough on you because...
Did you just say Nyaope boy?
Well, I don't know. Whatever. I'm looking for an example of something to say here. But I'm always just like, dude, you got to get your life. I mean, he's only 9, shame. And I put so much pressure on him sometimes. But I'm just like, I want a lot for you, boy.
Sure.
A lot. Yeah.
Let's wrap up by chatting about your future, what you're still hoping to achieve. 20 years in, guys, we are getting old.
Like, and if we sit here 20 years from now, we are now, 60? Almost 60.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
What is the plan for Flo in the future? What are you still hoping to achieve?
So, like I said to you, I've always been a person who always things have to be planned and things have to go according to, you know. But I've also realized life throws curveballs at you and you can't plan things to the T.
Sure.
So I've learned to, go with the flow, as my name is. I go with the flow a lot now. And I've realized that it's made life more fun. It's made life more comfortable because I'm not sitting there going, I was supposed to achieve this at this time. I was supposed to do this. So I really do go with the flow. I mean, I never knew I'd have a company, for example, but here we are. So obviously I'd love to see my company making strides, and it's been a long road.
Sure.
So I'd obviously like to see us being, doing well with my business partners. That's obviously something that I aim for. And who knows, I might even decide to go back to law. No, like I'm open to anything now. So I don't kind of go, okay, no, that I'll never do that. I would, I'm kind of like, well, if it's the right thing to do and it's fun to do, then I'll do it. So I just hope that more money, please.
For all of us, we're tired.
That's my plan.
Of counting pennies. For sure.
So that's what I want to do, and just be chilled, man. I think that I spent so much of my younger years being tense and being too focused, and now I just want to let go and be chilled about things.
I'm literally the other way around. Like you said, I introduced you to this deep, dark party world.
And now this is you now.
It was so innocent. It was we were on the right side of the track in a weird way.
We were, but it was also a fun time.
Yeah.
And also, don't you think, like looking back, that we had it easy getting into the industry?
Sure.
I mean, a lot of our peers struggled to break in and to get in. And we kind of got in quite easily, And so sometimes when I face some of the challenges that I face in the industry, I'm like, you know what? I also deserve a tough time like everybody else. Because some people had a tough time in the beginning. We didn't.
At
and
all.
So to feel, challenges now, I think it's fair enough. We all need to experience something.
A bit of life and a bit of character building never hurt nobody.
Exactly.
Flo, thank you so much for your time. Florence Letoaba, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I say something before we wrap up?
Of course you can.
So don't edit this out because I know you would.
So Flo, I have I feel like you're the one person, because you've known me for so long, that I don't mind.
Okay, so I wanted to end by saying that I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
Just the person that you are. You've always been a good person, but you've just become this woman that's just, it's just admirable. You just have a beautiful heart from within, and I really hope that everything that you're doing, you keep Makwande. What is the word?
Yes, Makwande.
Yes. So I'm watching a lot of Zulu dramas, dramas. So, but I really hope that you expand on all of this and everything that you touch, continues to. I love the fact that, even if there's nothing out there, you're like, I'll create the opportunity.
Yes.
I'll make things happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of sulk, with the industry and the goings on in the industry. And it's just admirable that you just keep going. And I love that about you and as a person.
Thank you so much. It's taken a lot to get here. But thank you. And I appreciate your love and your constant validation. No one affirms me more than Flo, Cass Naidu, and Ursula Stoppelfeld. Oh my goodness. The three of you literally are my cheerleaders in life. So thank you for being one of those people.
You're welcome, my friend.
All the best.
Thank you. You too.
Yay. Florence Letoaba.